Laudate si omnis Signore, laudate si omnis Signore. Praise be to God in all the creation. This is a song that I used to sing when I was still young. I didn't know what it meant. And today we realized that even in Genesis, when God created Adam, He also created the world as we know it. He created the animals, and we cannot run away from what God had in mind in the beginning, that we need to take care of the ecology. We need to take care of the nature. Yesterday, on the 16th of May, we started the Laudate Si week. It will go until the 25th of May, Laudate Si, where we honor God in creation. And I just wanted to add something about Archbishop Dennis Haley. I understand that before he died, he was driving. But no, he was not driving, he was a passenger. And the person that was driving with him, the last word that he said was, "Wow, what a beautiful world." When he looked at the scenery that he was seeing at that point in time, he said, "Wow, what a beautiful world." And he stopped breathing. And today we just want to say, "Wow, oh Lord my God, how awesome you are." Today let us talk about Marfam. It is the ministry of the church that looks at the renewal of families in the church. We want to make our homes an icon of love. We want to make our homes to be receptive of receiving love and also of giving love. We believe that everyone belongs in the family. Irrespective if your family is good or irrespective if your family is dysfunctional, but all of us, at the end of the day, we belong in the family. That's why Tony Rowland has been at the helm of this for over 20 years now. She started this ministry with her husband, and even when the husband left, she carried on. She carried on trying to renew the family lives. All of us, we need renewal, and we need deep renewal where family life is concerned. Unity is strength, and I love this unity in the Catholic Church where collaboration happens. It is our pleasure that we, in this week of Laudate Si, we as the Marriage and Family Life Department, we collaborate with Marfam, Marriage and Family, so that together we can praise God. That is the whole idea, and that together through nature and everything that God has given us, we can say, "God, you are wonderful. God, you are awesome, and for that you deserve honor, glory and praise." Now let us be ready to explore what family is, how we can live in harmony with nature. We will explore this by allowing Tony Rowland to take us through the pace.
Maybe we should ask a question. Should Laudate Si be more family focused? And should families be more Laudate Si focused? Hi, my name is Tony Rowland, and I would like to share with you some thoughts on one of my Marfam productions called Our World, A Family of Families, Laudate Si with Family Eyes. Speaking of family eyes and family life, Amoris Laetitia, the Joy of Love, which is Pope Francis's 2016 Apostolic Exhortation on the Family, that has its following. Laudate Si, his 2015 encyclical on the care of our common home, has its own following. It seems quite unfortunate that often these are separate people or groups, and it appears that we don't appreciate the essential connection between them, which is relationship. For me, the essence is not so much that families should appreciate and play their part in caring for creation, but that creation is made up of families. It's a question of identity. Families are the basic units of the Church, as is often said, and they are especially the basic units of creation. God, the Trinity, is family, and Laudato Si 238-40, and Amoris Laetitia 63, 86-87, and the particular creative potential of families is all at the heart of creation. I've been gradually moving in this direction over time through my work in Marfam, and as an example, I wish to expand on this by outlining the 2021 Family Year Planner and its theme, Our World, a Family of Families. Each month has a focus on an aspect of family life, for example, parenting, youth, grandparents, sexuality, and also love and family rights. Bringing Amoris Laetitia and Laudato Si together then is done through daily reflections which contain quotations from these different documents. And an important event, the week of 16 to 24 May, is Laudato Si week. It's the conclusion of the 5th anniversary commemoration, and so it's an appropriate time to do this. In addition, as a special source of grace, the week from 16 to 24 May is also the week of prayer for Christian unity. Prayer reflections from this commemoration are also included in this presentation. And this presentation is part of the requirement for a Laudato Si Animators course in which I am participating. I hope you will enjoy the presentation. The theme for this presentation is Our World, a Family of Families. And so this is built around our Family Year Planner, which comes with an explanatory booklet. And for each month, as you can see somewhere, there are special themes. And I'd like to share, just to get an idea of the whole message and how the whole program comes together, I'll share a reflection, a short piece on each theme. And then in addition to that, we have a daily thought and a weekly e-newsletter, all of which are intended to develop these themes. January, with its theme, Family Beginnings. In the beginning, before the world, the sun, moon, stars, animals, plants, and humankind were created, there was only God. God had a passion to create, to share, to love, and so every created thing came into being. The desire for creation, co-creation, and recreation exists in every creature, and so our world has evolved. Pope Francis says, creation accounts in Genesis tell us of 3 fundamental relationships, with God, with our neighbor, and with the earth. These have been broken, outwardly and within us. This rupture is sin, and that is Laudato Si 66. As never before, our common destiny begs us to seek a new beginning, a new reverence for life, a resolve for sustainability, a struggle for justice and peace, and a joyful celebration of life. And that is from Laudato Si 2007. February. Its theme is Love Gives Life. God the Creator is a lover, a love that is life-giving, creating continually, sustaining and renewing what has been created. As human beings and life-givers, our task is co-creation with God in conception, bearing and nurturing of children, and maintaining loving relationships. Life-giving relationships of love and care are mirrored and carried forward in the care for all creation, trees and rhinos, as well as the poor. Pope Francis says, Love is more powerful. Love gives life. Love makes hope blossom in the wilderness. God's indulgent love always accompanies our human journey. Grace heals and transforms hardened hearts. Jesus proclaimed the meaning of marriage as the fullness of revelation, restoring God's original plan. And here I quote from Amoris Laetitia, number 62. The theme for March is family rights. And by the way, you will notice that some of these themes link up with national or liturgical celebrations. And in South Africa, we celebrate human rights in March. And I believe that it should be family rights. So here's the reflection. The right to life should be paramount and is enshrined in most constitutions and the Church's Charter of Family Rights. Human life of individuals, also of family units, is precious from the first moment of existence until natural death. Concern for animal and plant families is growing. A culture of life approach to rights respects justice, love, and positive relationships. All of creation is interconnected. This right to protection of life in all forms and stages as a universal right is still far from being realized. Pope Francis says, the right of some to free enterprise cannot supersede the rights of peoples, the dignity of the poor, or respect for the natural environment. To make something our own, it's only to administer it for the good of all. And incidentally, this quotation is from Teli Tutti, Pope Francis's encyclical on social friendship, number 122. April. Its theme is God is family. God as Trinity is family. Every human family, as individuals and as a unit, is an image of God. St. Francis sings, "We praise you, Lord, for all your creation, for brother sun, sister moon, brother fire, sister water, mother earth, and all creation. They bear your likeness. Inanimate creatures, through their being, offer their praise to God. Humankind has additional power to understand, to love, but to hurt and to forgive because of love. Through pain we offer honor and gratitude to the Trinity, whose image has been disfigured by us in harming creation and relationships." Pope Francis says, within the family, a domestic church, individuals enter upon an ecclesial experience of communion among persons, which reflects, through grace, the mystery of the Holy Trinity. And that is Amoris Laetitia 86. The family is the image of God, who is a communion of persons. Amoris Laetitia 71. The theme for the month of May is parents form families. The gift of co-creation with God in nature is one of God's greatest gifts. The male and female in nature, and a man and a woman, ideally through loving committed relationships, continue God's creation and care. Creatures, human and animal, have the task of forming and educating their offspring and creating an intimate bond. Effective parenting is the most complex relationship today, as we dare not also forget the human capacity for good and evil. Little parental training is offered by the Church or society. Pope Francis says, the gift of a new child entrusted by the Lord to a father and a mother begins with acceptance, continues with lifelong protection, and has as its final goal the joy of eternal life. God allows parents to choose the name by which He Himself will call their child for all eternity. Amoris Laetitia 166. Now during May, we also have Laudato Si week, as well as the week of prayer for Christian unity. So we have a prayer for each of these, which we will include at the end of the presentation. June has as its theme, children belong in families. Birth, childhood and growth through adolescence are the most vibrant stages of life in all of creation, human, animal and plant. And family relationships do exist everywhere. Adolescence can be stressful and conflict-filled. Ideally, in a family, the young need protection, care and support to monitor and direct their youthful energy towards full and responsible maturity. Pope Francis, writing in his document to the youth, says, the difficulties they experience in their own family can lead the young to ask if it is worthwhile to start a new family, to be faithful, to be generous. I say it is worth every effort to invest in the family. There you will find the best incentives to mature and to the greatest joys. Don't let yourselves be led astray by those who propose a life of rampant individualism that in the end leads to isolation and the worst sort of loneliness. And that is from Christus Vivit 263. July has as its theme grandparents of family roots. At the opposite extreme to youth is old age. In nature, in a forest, the oldest tree, in an animal troop, the oldest and wisest members, all are respected and guarded by the offspring and the community. Grandparents belong in families and are its historical memory. Not all are elderly. Many lead active lives. Others play a great role in the lives of their children and grandchildren. In the great circle of life, there is a time for everything, for coming and for going. This should be done with patience, consideration, and acceptance. Violence towards the elderly happens in human families, but also in the realms of nature. Pope Francis says, very often it is grandparents who ensure that the most important values are passed down to their grandchildren, and many people testify that they owe their initiation into the Christian life to their grandparents. Amoris Laetitia 192. August theme is sexuality, a family gift. God looked on creation and was pleased. Particularly good is the ability to develop and evolve through the reproductive capability of creatures. Special attributes of humans, including free will, make human sexuality a special gift and blessing. Most profoundly, in marriage, it has potential to mirror the unity of God love and creativity. Sexuality, though, is still a taboo subject, not sufficiently promoted and too often abused. Different attitudes exist towards the complex issues and the complex variety of sexual issues. Pope Francis, in environmental impact studies, concern is usually shown for soil, water and air, yet few careful studies exist on biodiversity of plant and animal species. Little attention is paid to studying their reproductive patterns, and some species face extinction. Laudato Si 35. Human sexuality is not a means of gratification or entertainment. It's an interpersonal language wherein the other is taken seriously in his or her sacred dignity. Amoris Laetitia 151. September begins the season of creation, and our theme is our world of families. The world, our common home, is a beautiful image and a necessary insight into understanding creation. That is, the whole human family and the millions of family forms in nature. We, the human family, with our diversity in religion, political ideologies, wealth and poverty, are the greatest threat to the world's security and stability. Other families in creation suffer because of how we have treated this common home. Is our heritage and culture doomed, or how can it be redeemed? Pope Francis says, culture is more than what we have inherited. It's also a living, dynamic and participatory present reality, which cannot be excluded as we rethink the relationship between human beings and the environment. Laudato Si 143. A fragile world entrusted by God to human care challenges us to devise intelligent ways of directing, developing, and limiting our power. Laudato Si 78. October, Family on Mission. Every single family of any kind, from a human one-parent family to the ancient colossuses of trees in our forests and the tiniest of creatures in the sea, have a role to play to sustain our world as a family of families. As a human family, we uniquely have the power to choose our sense of mission. We cannot afford selfish greed or hurtful violence, but are called to adopt God's mission of love for all creation. Love alone has the potential for the salvation of the world. Pope Francis says the family is an agent of pastoral activity through the proclamation of the gospel, through their witness, solidarity with the poor, openness to diversity of people, protection of creation, moral and material solidarity with other families, and commitment to the common good. Amoris Laetitia 290. Christians accept the world as a sacrament of communion, a way of sharing with God and our neighbors. The divine and the human meet in the seamless garment of God's creation, in the last speck of dust of our planet. Laudato Si 9. November has as a theme family endings. Birth, growth, decline, and death are the natural cycle in all of creation. For inanimate creatures, it may be a painless letting go or a cataclysmic event. Death and decay may be a source of renewal of the land. Extinction is a concern in animal and plant kingdoms. For us humans, created with special gifts to love, to hurt, and to forgive, this is a special time of the year to remember life and death and their Creator. For believers, resurrection and reunion are the ultimate hope. The COVID-19 pandemic and climate change have made us aware of our vulnerability. Pope Francis says, leaving an inhabitable planet to future generations is first and foremost our concern. The issue dramatically affects us, for it has to do with the ultimate meaning of our earthly sojourn. Laudato Si 160. If we accept death, we can prepare ourselves for it. The better we live on this earth, the greater the happiness we will be able to share with our loved ones in heaven. Amoris Laetitia 258. And lastly, December has as its theme, family, hope for the future. What does it mean to be a family of families and hope for the future? Each human family is unique and different, with our own special relationships, joys and anxieties, and yet has an inbuilt sense of belonging to one another and to our Creator. Saint Francis gave us the insight that all the elements in creation are related. The sun, moon, stars, fire, water, earth, and even death are brothers, sisters, and the earth is our mother. Gratitude and praise are expressions of the wonder and awe we humans experience at God's gift of creation. We acknowledge that we alone can address the challenges that must lead to hope for the future. And so we pray a simple family prayer. We praise and bless you, O Lord. We give you thanks and serve you in humility.
Family of God, greetings to you and peace be with you. I had my own conversion to the earth, to creation, when I first got exposed to great saints of nature like Francis of Assisi, and of course being exposed to the beautiful teachings of the Church around eco-theology, or the beautiful teaching of Pope Francis in Laudato Si, as we've heard from Tony Rowland. But so often, church teachings, reflections, theologies, they become a bit overwhelming. We read and perhaps it makes sense up here, but does it really make the journey from the mind to the heart? And perhaps even more importantly, do we really live it out? I started noticing my need to spare the life of the ant, of the fly, of the bee, of the plant, of the tree, my desire to keep the lights off, my desire to keep away the doom cans, etc., etc. Perhaps one of the most beautiful manifestations of my conversion to nature and to creation was how I felt an impulse to teach my 3 children about the sun, about the moon, about the trees, and how they are our family. I asked my children to look up into the sky, look at the moon and say, hello, hello moon. To look at the sunset and say, good night sun, see you tomorrow morning. The beautiful stars. There's so much we can do to teach our families to appreciate our greater family. Perhaps after listening to all the reflections, so beautifully explained by Tony, you might again feel a bit overwhelmed and think, oh, how great that there's so many things to discuss and so many creative themes to break it up, to sit down at the dinner table and perhaps in your own creative way, bring up those topics with your family or even with your friends. But then the question comes again, what do I do about it? How do I move on from just talking to doing? And as our next speaker, Judy Stockill, will remind us, although talking is good, and it is indeed doing, it is the action that really counts. By explaining it to us in a see, judge, act way, Judy Stockill breaks it down for us into small little bits of practical things that we can do day to day in our homes here with our families to make Laudato Si, through the eyes of the family, a reality for us. Here's Judy Stockill.
Hi, my name's Judy Stockill. I'm a cradle Catholic, and I've always been a justice campaigner. I can remember from a little girl standing up for my sisters when things weren't fair. And I've always drawn strength from nature. We lived in the country, very close to people who lived on the land, close to nature, close to producing our own food. So I've been very privileged and very lucky to have been given that gift from God to appreciate His love in nature. We're talking about Laudato Si week this month in May, and I think that the resource, the Marfam calendar that has been prepared, is just wonderful. It's a whole year of agendas, if you can say, topics for conversation, for reflection, for prayer. What does need to be done is to bring those huge, big issues of world issues of poverty and climate change into manageable bits. Otherwise, people just throw up their hands. They say, I can't manage anymore. I give alms, I do charity work, I try not to use my car too much, I always switch off the lights. What more can I do? So I'm going to try and bring the Laudato Si week right into the family home, so that there are little things that one can do that will add up. The Pope knows, he said in his appeal in paragraph 13, I think it is, of Laudato Si, he said, we know that things can change. And that's the theme of this Laudato Si week. So we're going to see how little things can build up into big changes. And you know, the family is just the beginning. Families have got other communities, schools, friends, colleagues, even clubs, social clubs, and of course the great social media. So whatever happens in the home, if it gets spread around, it's got to make a difference. St. Francis, when he wrote his encyclical, Laudato Si, used the Jesuit or the Justice and Peace method of see, judge, act. It's a circle, it goes on and on. It doesn't stop. So while you're acting, you're also seeing another step. His whole encyclical, if you look at it carefully, is written that way. The first chapter is see, the second chapter is judge. Well, it's more than one chapter, judge. He judges in terms of our Catholic teaching, the scriptures, our own faith, our own sense of right and wrong, and of course against the science and the facts of each issue. So I've taken as my first example of looking around the home at our habits, our lifestyles, and see how much we take out of the common pot. The pot is not our pot or any one person or country's pot. It's a world pot. You can't throw anything away, it stays in the world. You can't waste anything, it stays in the world. It just matters how is it used. It does matter if in this little tip of Southern Africa how we behave. Everything hangs together like Olympic rings. Pull one of them out and the whole lot come crashing down. We need to use our imaginations when we do this exercise of examining our lifestyle. How can we change? How can we make a difference? Let's take a little family meal. Nice sausages, Ma. Where did you get them? Bert's Butchery. Okay, where did Bert get them? Are they made of beef, cow, ox, bull? And where did that beast live? And how did that beast live? Was it one of those cows that had her head trapped in the railings over a trough, forced to eat, give milk, and when she couldn't anymore, became sausage meat? What's in that trough? Is it food grown specially for her? Is it food that people could have eaten before it was grown for her? Why couldn't the cow just stay in the field and eat the grass before they ploughed and planted? Suddenly there are a whole lot of answers to nice sausages, Ma, where did you get them? The Pope, I said earlier, judges our way of life, or judges the responses in terms of the Catholic faith, all the teachings, and in the justice of the Church, our own sense of right and wrong, and in our creation spirituality, where we believe that God is a God of love, and what He expects from us is right relations with everything and everybody in His creation. When the family have analysed the process of where Bert gets his delicious sausage meat, and we've thought about all the people who work on the farms, in the abattoir, the butchery, even the sausage skin factory, we start to wonder whether there's going to be enough land, beef, to go around. And certainly we begin to wonder whether the people at the bottom of that chain, the farm workers, do they ever get to eat Bert's delicious sausages? Is it better to plough the land to feed the cow, or is it better to let the cow graze naturally? If we did that, would there be enough land to go around? So now the family, our family, has reached a point where there's just too many questions. Let's rather not think about this. Oh no, rather think about it in the light of what you have. And what you have is the Marfam resources. And of course you have Laudato Si itself, the scriptures themselves, and the Catholic social teachings of the Church if you want to get really into it. But of course the Pope asks for action. And the two actions that he appeals for in Laudato Si is conversion to a new lifestyle and a call to dialogue. He wants the world to dialogue, right from way up at the United Nations and the International Panel for Climate Change, right down to us as individuals. He wants that conversion and that dialogue. So, whatever happens in our family, they're going to talk about it. Let's talk about their action first. A good thing would be to have just one meatless Monday a week, or one fasting Friday a week, or maybe one of each once a month. It's definitely an action. And talking is an action. I know we often get accused of talking and not doing, but talking is doing, especially if you go out there and talk to your friends and your colleagues, and even to strangers, about land use, etc. The family sitting around the pasta pot on a meatless meal could talk about clearing of forests and the orangutans that live in them for palm oil. Palm oil, oh my goodness, cosmetics, beauty products, etc. That will bring them back to the sea, judge and act of a whole different topic. There are other examples. We'll move on from the land use one and talk about something else. Nice shirt, brother. But don't you already have a blue one? Yep, but the buttons are coming off that one, and this one is cotton. For goodness sake, sew on the buttons. And where was that cotton grown anyway? And the blue dye, how did it get into the fabric and out of the factory? Is it washing down some river? And who made the shirt? And how did it get here from wherever it was made? And how many shirts do you need? That's the C part. And just so that you can begin to judge your shirt, brother, St. Basil the Great, a bishop of Caesarea, way back in the 4th century, he is quoted as saying, "The cloak that lies in your chest belongs to the poor." So how many poor clothes have you got in your cupboard? So the action is a whole family that would result from a conversation like that, expanded, probably prayed about, reflected on, would be that the whole family and their friends and their colleagues and their friends and their colleagues decide to shop more thoughtfully. Not to follow fashion trends, but to buy what they need and to care for it so that it lasts. Care for our common home. I have another example. Similar, they're all similar because everything hangs together. Ma, why is it my job to always take out the rubbish bin? It stinks. It doesn't have to stink, says Ma. If you put out a bucket so that everybody in the family can throw their peels and in there, that doesn't go into the dustbin won't stink. Nothing gets scraped off the plate because you're supposed to eat everything on your plate. The bones can be wrapped in a little parcel of newspaper and that can be put in the rubbish bin. And any food left over from the cooking goes in the freezer for Friday soup a lot of the waste that goes into the rubbish bin will be clean. And if it's a tin or something that's a bit grubby inside, it can just be rinsed out in the last dishwashing rinse. So there you have it. A bin, a compost bin full of organic material that you can put in the compost heap. A rubbish bin with a tiny little bit of parcels of bones and things underneath. And then a bin of recyclables. Once the family's solid waste manager, this is a poor little chap who used to have to take out the bin, begins to appreciate his role, he will start instructing the household how to shop to minimize waste. None of those biscuits that have got plastic, cardboard, cellophane. We won't have those. We'll just have bakery biscuits in a packet. That's minimizing waste. And what about the compost? It'll soon be a wonderful pile of rich natural fertilizer. We can't let that go to waste. So we'll begin to put it on the garden and then wonder, why are we putting all this on a flower garden? Can't we put it on a food garden? What would you grow in a food garden? Well, you could go the whole hog, and start digging up your flower garden for vegetables. But it would be better to start bit by bit. And one of the things the shops always sell us that we can never use at once is herbs. You want a sprig of parsley and you have to buy a packet of parsley. So why not start planting herbs between your flower beds? And once they're successful and you've come to appreciate the freshness of herbs picked from the garden, a rosemary bush is both ornamental and practical. Basil keeps flies away from your back door. There's just so much interconnectedness that it's only by these actions that you begin to see what is available. Once you start then saying, well, couldn't we stick a spinach plant in between the flowers? Yes, and eventually a vegetable garden. From there, it's just a small step to putting your grey water, the water that runs out of your rinse water, onto the garden. And before you know it, you've made great strides towards minimizing your waste, providing your own food, and of course, you're going to show off your vegetables and your herbs. And you're going to talk to your friends at school, in the parish, at work. And they're going to talk to their friends at school and parish and work. And so that action grows and grows. And that is what the Pope wants to happen. He wants us to convert, to have a new lifestyle. I've got a whole list of quirky little things that will start conversations in the garden. For example, have you ever heard of a bee hotel or an insect hotel? A bee hotel is just a block of wood with some holes drilled in it, different sizes, not all the way through, and you quickly find that some of the 900 species of bees that we've got make their homes there. Honeybees make a nest, but there are many, many single bees, little, and you can tell just by looking at your hotel who's there. If the leaves are sticking out, it's a leaf cutter bee. If it's mud, it's probably a mud wasp. So, and that starts a conversation about how much poison should I put on the garden to keep the aphids off Mum's roses, and so on. Other little quirky things are things like bee drinking fountains. For honeybees need a lot of water. So if you've got a rosemary bush, put a bee drinking fountain underneath. Bees can't swim. It's a dangerous job for them, so they always send the old bees to collect water. So if you put a few stones in a basin, they can at least have somewhere to sit, bend down and drink. Makes their life much easier that way. And it's a quirky conversation starter, and it brings you back to see, judge, act, care for our common home. I've made it sound as though we have to go back to the age of no technology, that we just have to grow our own food and, keep our own animals. But that's not so at all. These quirky things that I've mentioned, they include insect watching, butterfly watching, bird watching, and of course photographing and sharing through technology with your community and the much broader community. And every relationship that you have with any of God's creatures builds on the love of God in our earth. So whatever you do in that right relationships way, that is both a justice requirement, a faith requirement, and a community requirement, right relationships. You see, judge, act, and commit to care for the common home. You see the love of God in all of creation. See the image of God in all you meet. And see, judge, act, and know that we can bring about change.
Well, family of God, there you have it. Is it a challenge? Yes, of course. It's difficult. Life gets busy. It takes off with us, as they say. But we need to start somewhere. Start small. Try one thing this month, the next month try another. Try one thing for 3 months. And then the next 3 add another. And then another. And then another. And before you know it, taking care of nature will be second nature. And so, family, our world really is a family of families. And from Marfam, from the MFLO, and from my family to yours, we wish you all the best. Remember, God is love, God is family.